Good morning. Today is Friday, otherwise known as Friday. It is February 24th, 2023. Here we go once again. Good morning, Jackie. Look at you go. She's on and liking the program. She hasn't even heard what I got to say yet. She just likes being here. And you know what? We like having you here as well. Good morning, Bio Blues Brother Scott. So today it's Miss Jackie in the front of the classroom as the greeter, and Bio Blues Brother Scott, you're in the back of the classroom as the greeter. Let's make sure we greet the other students as they come into the classroom. Rusty is wound up today. I don't know what it is. So Becky, he plays really nice with her and will lay down by her and nap. Me, on the other hand, he thinks it's playtime when he's around me. Maybe it's because I created playtime in the morning, which he's doing right now. He's playing with his mouse. He's got it going every which way. He's underneath the table right now. He gets the mouse underneath the table and then he can't get it out and he wants my help. So you'll hear this noise. That's Rusty playing with this mouse. Where are you? What? Oh, jeez. Oh, Rusty. There, it's out. Come out of there. He gets underneath the table and can't get his mouse out. It is Friday, and Marcia has a forecast. It's not looking good. I'm not very excited about because today I got to drive out to Jordan Creek. Becky will be at the event center at the Home and Garden Show. So if you're down in downtown Des Moines around the event center, come down and see Becky at the Home and Garden Show. She'll be there today, tomorrow, and Sunday. It's a very long weekend. And perhaps if you come down there, maybe you can even help her for a moment while she goes to the restroom because she has no backup. Me, on the other hand, I will be at Jordan Creek. Rusty. I'll be at Jordan Creek and I'll be out there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we're splitting up. We're covering two venues. It should be for a very busy weekend. And hopefully the weather isn't too bad, though I took a peek at what Marcia had to say and I did not like it. So before we get to that, good morning, Kathy. Good morning, Marie. And yes, of course, Rusty down here. He's playing. Oh, he's got the mouse underneath the blanket now. Oh, geez. And good morning, Tommy, sir. All right. Let's get to our message for today. In today, we can love and keep faith in God. My message today has a personal touch as I lost a close friend this past week. Now, again, this message is going to be a couple weeks ago. I chose one from 2 weeks ago, Friday, because I figured we probably didn't read it. God provides us with love and grace, which is in an example and how he desires us to live. Let us thank God for the people he has placed in our lives. Each of them have influenced our lives and provided us with love and wisdom and help. And perhaps even I provide a comedic touch with our challenges of life. All the people God has placed in our lives are there for a purpose. And when we have met their purpose, God takes them home to be with him. The people we have lost hold many labels: mother, father, sister, brother, son, daughter, grandparents, husbands and wives, co-workers, friends, and lovers. Each of these people have been an influence on our lives and gave us happy and joyous, loving memories. When these people pass away, are filled with pain and sorrow. We can take time with God and thanking Him for the blessing of this person in our lives. We can ask Him for His strength and healing to help us overcome our grief and sorrow. What we have to remember is especially if they have died in faith and have accepted the sacrifice of Jesus in the cross, you know what? Yeah, the pain and sorrow is on our end because we can't imagine living without their presence in our lives because we've been around them for so long. It's the shock, it's the pain, the sorrow, missing hearing their voice. I'm not reading anymore. You're like, has he got the message memorized? No, I'm not. I'm off message right now. The pain, the sorrow, all the memories we share, the telephone calls, the messages, maybe texts and emails. All of a sudden, we realize those aren't going to be coming anymore. That person has had such a great importance in our lives, has helped shape who we are. What we need to remember is if they've died in faith, they've gone off to a much better place. It is them who probably feel bad for us because they finally get to go home and we are left behind. But what we can do is we can carry on their memory. We can assure others that, yeah, it's sad that they are gone, but they are in a much better place. Maybe they had an illness, a sickness. Their body had worn down. They're in pain no more. They're in joyful celebration. I used to always say, again, you can always feel free to disagree with what I got to say, but what I used to say is I always got into the rest in peace. You know what? When they pass, I just feel as though they're not resting in peace. They always say, "Oh, I hope they rest in peace." No, they're in joyous celebration. They have gone home. I know that me personally, the day that I am called home, don't say rest in peace on me because rest will probably be the last thing I do. Because after all, I'm not going to be in this broken down body anymore, tired and fatigued. I am going to be my younger, youthful self, full of energy. We're going to be in a place in which there'll be no darkness and evil and corruption, the things that bring us down and make us just want to crawl in a cocoon. It's going to be wonderful and joyous. You're going to be able to see the people that you've missed because they've passed on many years ago. Last thing I'm going to do is rest. I do my rest now because I ain't going to be resting in peace. I am going to be in joyful celebration. Imagine you're going to see all the people, not only of that we read about in God's word, but all the people that you've gotten to know that have passed. I don't know about you, but I'm not resting. You can go ahead and rest, but you let me know when you're awake when you're up there because I'm not going to be resting. I'm going to be the one that's going to be out there. It's all light. It's going to be glorious. I'm going to be so excited. Enjoy eternity. And so I don't know. I used to always be one of the people that would say, "Oh, I hope they rest in peace." And now I'm just like, they're not going to be resting in peace. They're going to be in joyous celebration. And so you got to feel like they feel bad for us that we're having to continue to live down here. But they're getting ready for the day that we will rejoin them in eternity. Sorry, went off a little. Now I'll get back to the message. We can let our minds recall the beautiful memories of love and happiness, joy that we have experienced with this special person. We may struggle with trying to understand God's reason for taking this person away from our lives, but it's not for us to understand as much as it is for us to trust in God and His will for us. In the loss of someone special in our lives, we can let our tears flow and our grief be there to gradually let go, never forgetting the loving memories. My grandma passed away in 1983, and you know how much I've talked about her. She continues to live on through me. Oh, Rusty. Oh, Rusty. He's knocked all sorts of stuff off the table. He tried to jump on. I guess we'll recover later. Oh boy. Rusty's just all wired up today. um, you know how much I talk about her. She's been gone. Well, 1983. We're talking in what would it be? November, I believe. She's going to be gone for 40 years. But yet you hear me talk about her. That's what we do is we talk about those that have been lost. And it's still like they're with us, even though they're not. And let's leave an impression on others so that they will do the same about us when we go one day. Never forgetting the loving memories. In grief, we can learn a spiritual lesson, building our relationship with God. No words can erase our pain, but they can console us. The beautiful person who has departed us shall rest. No, rest peacefully in heaven. Again, I've already I've already talked about this. That part of the message, I don't necessarily agree. They're not going to rest peacefully. They're going to be joyous. It's going to be joyful celebration. I don't know about you, but like I said, I ain't resting in peace. We can let the sweet memories of love of the past soul give us strength and courage to face each new day being helped by God. In grief, God helps us, loves us, gives us strength. God's blessings on your day. Much love to each of you. That is a peaceful mind. I won't be resting though. I will be in joyful celebration. Imagine I'll be able to see my grandma again. I'll be able to see my dad again. I'll be able to see my brother again and all the other wonderful people that have passed before me. I ain't gonna have time to rest. Maybe a peace of mind rest, but I ain't resting in peace. Again, you guys can go ahead and rest in peace once you get there. But I'm in my youthful. I just remember when I was younger, it was mom that would come downstairs at like 3 o'clock in the morning and she'd be like, you should be getting to bed. It's getting late. And what I could have said is, I could have said, Mom, why are you still up then? But I didn't. Mom, if it's so late, why are you still up? Oh, geez. I don't know how she did it because you know what? And then when I got to her age, I'm in like bed. It gets to be 10 o'clock. I'm like falling asleep in the chair. How in the world did she stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning? I don't know. And our body will let us. The thing is that um, we'll have our spiritual body. We will have our spirit. Our spirit is the essence of who we are. And so maybe the body can go rest somewhere, but my spirit is going to go on and on and on. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the weather. I've been putting it off. That was such a good message. And now we got to come down to the reality of weather. From Chief Meteorologist, Miss Marsha. Here's your forecast for today. Des Moines, 24 snow showers, 7-mile-an-hour winds. West Des Moines, 23, snow, 8-mile-an-hour winds. Waukee, 22, snow showers, 8-mile-an-hour winds. Council Bluffs, 24, snow, 13-mile-an-hour winds. Pleasant Hill, 23, snow showers, 8-mile-an-hour winds. Altoona, 23, cloudy, 8-mile-an-hour winds. Dubuque, 24, snow showers, 8-mile-an-hour winds. Monticello, 24, snow showers, 7-mile-an-hour winds. Kansas City, 36, mostly cloudy, 9-mile-an-hour winds. Dixon, 30, cloudy, 7-mile-an-hour winds. Waxhaw, 70, cloudy, 7-mile-an-hour winds. Sierra Vista, 65, mostly sunny, 4-mile-an-hour winds. And Texas Tommy, 62, cloudy, and 14-mile-an-hour winds. Have a great day and a great weekend, everyone. And that is your weather forecast brought to you by Miss Marsha. Like I said, it don't sound like a forecast I'm too excited about, but it is what it is. Here we go. Good morning, Miss Katie. How are you doing? Da-da! The Book of Amazing Stories. Here we go. We got to keep the program moving along today because I didn't go to the store yet. So I got to go over to the store after the message and get packed up for Jordan Creek and then drive out to Jordan Creek and set up and be ready to go at 10 o'clock. So got to keep this program moving today. All right. I told you yesterday I read the title. This is going to be exciting. Can't act, slightly bald, also dances. Who in the world is this? Any guesses as to who this person is? I'll give you a clue. It's not me because it would have to say also can't dance. All right. It seemed that the boy from Nebraska, there's our first clue, was consigned to play second fiddle. He was a toddler when his mother dragged him with her to fetch his sister from ballet class. The 4-year-old found a pair of discarded dance slippers in the corner of the classroom. After he discovered that he couldn't stand on his toes too, he spent the rest of his childhood mimicking his big sister. He would dance in Adele's shadow for the next 30 years. When a talented 8-year-old girl and her little brother made a splash in Omaha, their stage mother took her little meal tickets to the Big Apple. The young vaudeville Hoofers debuted in an act with the clunky title Juvenile Artists Presenting an Electric Musical Toe Dancing Novelty. That seems like a very long title. By the time you get to the end of it, you forget what the beginning even said. They appeared in second-tier vaudeville shows, forgettable Broadway musicals, and mediocre operettas for 30 years. What favorable press they got always focused on beautiful Adele. When she ran off to London to marry an English lord, her scrawny brother was left to dance alone. Going solo was also a rude awakening. One critic wrote, "The two were better than the one." Fortunately, his old friends Ira and George Gershwin found a place for him in their Broadway shows. The middle-aged Hoofer finally began to shine. The Gershwins encouraged their friend that he was ready for the big time. So he boarded a train for Hollywood. Have we figured out who this is yet? Studio head David O. Selznick was on the road when Adele's brother took a screen test for RKO Pictures. An assistant was unimpressed. He scribbled a note that has become part of the movie lore. Can't act. Slightly bald. Also dances. Though distressed by his big ears, and his bad chin line, Selznick was also so excited about his dancing that he offered Adele's little brother a contract. The rest is the stuff of Hollywood legend. The hoofer from vaudeville would never again be a second fiddle to anyone. Moviegoers might have thought that Fred Astaire from Omaha was an overnight sensation, but he had paid for his dues for 30 years in the shadows of his sister. He would go on to dance with legendary elegance across the silver screen with the greatest dancers in Hollywood. But they would always take second billing as his partners. His most famous partner was Ginger Rogers, who famously quipped, "I did everything Fred Astaire did, only backwards and in high heels." But she never was as famous as Mr. Astaire, who Russian ballet star Rudolf Nureyev, I don't know, called America's greatest dancer. Mikhail Baryshnikov praised him as perfection, and choreographer George Balanchine called him the greatest dancer in the world. Maybe you are lost in someone's shadow today. Make the most of it. It was in Adele's shadow that Fred Astaire learned how to dance solo. Perhaps you are destined always to play second fiddle. That's okay too. Remember, Fred Astaire could never dance backwards and in high heels like Ginger Rogers. When you recall the amazing story of Fred Astaire, remember that until today, you probably never heard of his sister, Adele Astaire. So make this your credo too. That's the thing is, I never heard of Adele Astaire, but yet he played second fiddle to her. Now, if you say the name Fred Astaire, you've heard that name. At least I've heard that name. And so isn't that incredible? He was second, he was always second to his sister. And then they broke away, and then he was able to become first. And now, like I said, I don't even know Adele Astaire. I thought the only Adele I can think of is that Adele singer, and I knew it wasn't her. So make this your credo. If I'm called to play second fiddle, I'll play it like a Stradivarius. People should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts from God. Ecclesiastes 3, verse 13. That was a very good story. And so, what I will do is I will bookmark here, because if we have time after we complete our reading, we can come back and I'll read tomorrow's for you. How about that? Because I know I haven't read tomorrow. Da, 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 da. This is what you're here for. 40 days to lasting change and AHA challenge, because today's Friday. We're going to pick up in our reading, and we are at day 8, chapter 8. For those of you with the book, page 63, at least in my book, it's page 63. Getting what we deserve. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6, verse 7. Alan Robertson is the oldest son of Phil and Kay Robertson and the beardless brother of the Duck Dynasty clan. He was a good kid growing up, but was drawn to darker influences in his teen years. I was hiding in plain sight. Inside, I was not who I should have been. One night, Alan Robertson and his buddies spent an evening drinking and tearing up some mailboxes. The next day, a knock on the door led to a confession and a confrontation as Phil took off his belt and whipped all the boys. A spanking was not going to change me, Robertson said. Finally, a few months later, my dad said, Al, we love you, but the effect you're having on the younger boys is bad. If you're not willing to change, hit the road. So Alan left home and headed to New Orleans. He said, okay, Dad, goodbye. He joined the large party scene and began dating a nurse who he believed was divorced. One Sunday morning, Alan discovered the tires of his car were flat. While he was still kneeling down to inspect them, a man attacked him with a crowbar. Turned out the nurse was still married. Alan fought back and was able to escape. Police officers arrived and apprehended the attacker after he took out the rest of his fury on Alan's 76 Monte Carlo. But they had little sympathy for Alan because he had been sleeping with another man's wife. One officer asked, "What are your parents doing now?" In an aha moment, that question drew Robertson back to his home and family. I realized then that I could be home where Mom would be cooking a roast after church, Robertson said. That was my awakening. Robertson headed for home and pulled up to his parents' front yard where Miss Kay was waiting. He was hugging her when Phil came out. Robertson expected a lecture or at least a reminder of what he had done, but Phil hugged him and said, "Welcome home." The hug meant so much to me, Robertson said. That night, we had the fattened catfish. It felt like home. Later, Robertson asked his dad to baptize him in the river. That's pretty cool. We're quick to demand justice in the lives of other people. She got what she deserved, we think, or say out loud like the police officers that helped Alan. But it's a different story for ourselves. We want to do whatever we want to do without paying the price. And most of the time, we don't see the poor choices we are making in the moment, or we're skilled at conveniently ignoring the negative potential. Eventually, it all catches up with us, sometimes sooner, sometimes much later. But as the Bible says, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6:7. That's exactly what happened to the prodigal son. He spent all his money on wild living. That was no one else's fault. He arrived in the distant country and lived it up for a time. And after many nights of buying rounds and throwing parties, he was left with an empty wine glass and an empty wallet. I bet he had a lot of friends when he had all kinds of money and was buying rounds. I wonder how many of those friends were still around when his wine glass emptied and his wallet emptied too. That tells you who your true friends are. When you're going through tough times, who's still around? When things are going well, everybody's around. But once things don't go well, there's just not as many people around anymore, is there? The money was gone, and there was no one to blame but himself. His own actions and choices brought about consequences. He found himself in a pig pen, so hungry he longed to fill his stomach with pig slop. If he hadn't left his father's house and hadn't blown all his money on wild living, he wouldn't be in this position. When you are in the distant country, it's only a matter of time before your decisions catch up to you. Those consequences spread like ripples on a still pond after a rock is thrown in. Your choices and actions are the cause, and they bring about the effects. God often brings us to a desperate moment through deserved consequences. The weight of possible consequences can help us look back on our poor choices with greater clarity. The moment the consequences of our decisions catch up to us, that is an invitation to cry out to God for help. Don't wait for the consequences of your actions to come crashing down around you. Heed the warning signs. Wake up and come back to the Father. Where are your choices taking you? What's rippling through your life? What consequences are you causing? Take an honest look at what impact your actions are having on yourself and others. Fill out the following diagram. Start in the center of the circle by writing one of your regular actions, practices, or habits. Maybe one that you'd like to keep secret or that causes conflict in your life. In your next ring, write 3 possible outcomes. Then trace ongoing possible results toward the outside of the circle. You can draw more circles to examine other actions. So then there's where they're looking. So there is the diagram they're wanting you to draw. If you can see that, I'll keep it there for a little bit. Plus, you can always go back and watch. So there's the diagram as I explained. Now that you see the diagram, I'll read that again. Where are your choices taking you? What's rippling through your life? What consequences are you causing? Take an honest look at what impact your actions are having on yourself and others. And then fill out the following diagram I just showed you. Start in the center of the circle by writing one of your regular actions, practices, or habits, maybe one you'd like to keep secret or that causes conflict in your life. In the next ring, write 3 possible outcomes. Then trace ongoing possible results toward the outside of the circle. You can draw more circles to examine other actions. And that is the end of our day 8, chapter 8. For us, week 8. We've already completed 8 weeks. So next week is week 9, day 9, chapter 9, however you want to say it. Redeeming the pain. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. So if you're feeling a little crushed in spirit right now, no need to fear. The Lord is here. All right. That wraps up our reading on that. And we're running good on time, but I got to keep pressing along. So I've got time to read you another story. We'll get the prayer in. We'll wrap up the week, and then I got to get out of here. Okay. Our story that will be tomorrow, which we won't be on, but you get to hear it today, is Never Too Old to Start. When Anna Mary died in 1961, her doctor said she just wore out. Few folks logged more miles. Anna Mary was born before Abraham Lincoln took office. Times were tough for the farm family with 12 mouths to feed. She was 12 when she left home to work as a hired girl. At age 27, she married Tom Moses, a hired hand where she worked as a housekeeper. The newlyweds moved to Virginia, where they plunked down their $600 savings for a small farm. Anna Mary gave birth to 10 children, Wow. But lost 5 in infancy. The loss of children. 5 out of 10. She worked her fingers to the bone, raised her kids, and made butter and potato chips to sell to neighbors. After 20 years rather in Virginia, the couple moved to Eagle Bridge, New York, where Tom died in 1927. Her husband died in 1927. She didn't die until 1961. Anna Mary kept right on farming, even though she was a 36 or 37-year-old widow. By the time she was 76, her fingers were crippled by severe arthritis. She didn't mind quitting her farm chores, but she hated the fact that she could no longer stitch the embroidery that won blue ribbons at the county fair. A friend suggested that Anna Mary take up painting. At an age when most folks are snoozing in a rocking chair, she became an artist. She decided to paint what she called old-timey pictures of her life on the farm. Her paintings were primitive, one-dimensional, and out of perspective. She painted them on whatever surfaces she could salvage, painting with juices she squeezed from fruits. She did her work while sitting on a battered swivel chair at a cluttered kitchen table. Her first paintings were sent to the county fair along with jars of jam. Her jams won blue ribbons, but no one noticed her paintings. Several years later, a New York art collector saw her primitive works hanging in a drugstore, selling for $3 to $5 a piece. He bought them all and then drove to her house to purchase what she had there. At 80 years of age, Tom Moses' widow had her first art exhibit in New York. She became an instant superstar. Her paintings were reproduced on Christmas cards, tiles, and fabrics. Over the next 20 years, this wisp of a woman with severe arthritis churned out more than 1,000 paintings, 25 of them after she passed her 100th birthday. In her 90s, she was awarded 2 doctorates, feted by U.S. presidents, became a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution and the Society of Mayflower Descendants, authored 2 books, was featured on the cover of Life magazine, and was celebrated as one of the world's greatest artists. When she finally wore out at 101 years of age, the world mourned the passing of the artist known as Grandma Moses. The amazing story of Grandma Moses reminds us that it's always too soon to quit. When she could no longer hold a stitching needle, she picked up a paintbrush. While most folks give out, pull out, rust out, burn out, or flame out, Grandma Moses wore out by giving out to the very end. Hers is a story that says, work hard, don't give up, finish strong. What an inspiration. Finishing is better than starting. Patience is better than pride. Ecclesiastes 7, verse 8. What it made me think about is when I did my 24-hour run. It wasn't really a 24-hour run. It was a walk/run. It was running in the beginning and walking through the night. I didn't finish with what I wanted. What I wanted was 90 miles in 24 hours. I wanted because I was running from my dad and my brother. Any money I raised, I put it towards his kids, Junior's kids. So my dad passed at 57, which is the age I'm currently at. So it's just really hard to when you start thinking the perspective. My dad, he passed when he was 57. And it's just like he was old. He lived a long life. And then when you realize that you're 57, wait a minute. I am the age of my dad when he passed away. And then my brother passed when he was 33, known as Junior. And he of course was Lawrence Jr. So I was going to go 90 miles. And I realized very quickly that I wasn't built to go 90 miles. But I didn't give up. I didn't give in. I didn't say, well, I'm not going to make it, so I'm going to just sit down here and enjoy the day. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep going. And then rain set in, and some probably weren't able to continue going. Some have had injuries that weren't able to continue going. In the end, I finished in 8th place. There were only 8 runners that finished. But you know what? Even though I finished in last of all remaining runners, I went until the end. And so I got to give myself credit for that because there were some that were well trained and were doing really well. But, weather, injuries set in. We just have setbacks. And, you have a setback and some people just have to quit. If you're trained for a race and all of a sudden you get a severe ankle injury or leg injury and you have to quit, you don't want to quit, but you have to quit because of injury. Some people just decided that I'm not cut off for this. What I will tell you, I don't think I've ever told you this, that when I did this run, it was around Halloween in 2011. It was the second time I attempted that run. There was a first time I attempted to go 24 hours. And needless to say, I didn't come anywhere near it. That's what pretty much gave me the drive because I wasn't very well prepared. I developed a lot of blisters. I didn't have proper chains of shoes and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't prepared for it. I had no support system either. I had nobody there supporting me. And so I quit early and gave up and didn't finish. And so I was just bound and determined that I was going to give it one more try. And I wasn't going to give up. I did it closer to home where I could have support of friends and family. And I also was better equipped in terms of having more shoes and socks and such, except when they were left out in the rain. That preparation wasn't very good, but anyway, so the second time I was bound and determined that I wasn't going to let the first time hold me back. I was going to go through the night. No matter how bad the weather got, I was going to keep going. I powered through the night in the rain. And then I got to the end. Well, it was about 10 minutes to 8. And my friend's just like, are you going to quit already? It's only 10 to 8. You still got 10 minutes. I was exhausted. I went to get up to keep going. He's like, no, I was just kidding. He says, you've already given all you have. Sit there. And so then I actually didn't even go and get my award. So the award ceremony, my friend went and got the award because I was so exhausted. I couldn't even get up to go to the award ceremony. I just continued to sit there was wore out. I ended up doing 60.30, because I don't know how they can measure out the portions of miles, but it was measured out that I had done 60.30 miles. And so right away I was just like 60.30, that's pretty good. It's over 60 miles in a 24-hour period. And then of course my analytical mind, I said, if I take the 3 from 60 and I add the 3 to the 30, I end up with 57:33. Some of you may say that's a stretch, but that was what my mind went to. And saying, you know what? I didn't do the 90 I wanted to do, but in my mind, I did what I was supposed to do, which was 60.30, which I made 57:33. And then when I got through the rainfall of that night, and I've told this before, and it got to the next morning, double rainbow and a bald eagle in the sky. You just can't make these things up. Yeah, 2.5 miles an hour. That ain't too bad. That was 2011. So that was, we're coming up, what is that? It's over 11 years ago. It'd be 12 years ago on Halloween. I don't know how much, I don't know if I could do that now. I was in a little better shape then. I was in more of a running shape. Now I've kind of gotten older and packed on some more pounds, but I was just bound and determined that I failed the first time. I was not going to give up the second time. And I pushed through. And though, I came in last of all the remaining runners, I remained till the end. And I was able to go farther than some that were more accomplished than I was, that had run the race for many more years than me, were better trained than me. But though I was not the best runner there, I was able to stick it out till the end. And that's what I would say for you. You may feel as though you're not the most equipped. Just like Grandma Moses, she didn't give up. She couldn't do one thing, she went a different direction. You all of a sudden can't do what you feel like, well, I was born to do this. Like I was born to write. And so when God had me writing, I was just like, this is right down my wheelhouse. This is the gifts that God has given me. But then all of a sudden God says, I want you to do this. But wait, no, that isn't part of my equipment. I don't know your word. I'm not qualified to speak on your word. But yet God says, it doesn't matter what you feel you can do. It comes down to what I am calling you to do. Remember that. It's about what God is calling for you to do, not about what you think you can do, what you have the resources to do, what you have the money to do. It all comes down to, what does God want to do with your life? You say, well, now I'm just too old. My best years are behind me. Remember the story of Grandma Moses. Look at how old she was when she took a different turn and became an artist. There's something there. As long as we're breathing, we may feel as though our best years are behind, but it's never too old to do what God's purpose is for your life. Just remember that. All right. Boom. Let's go to the prayer. Oh. Yeah. Before Becky's Cookies. Yeah. Oh boy. Maybe I would have to what I could do is here's a ploy. I could enter the race and I could give the judges a plate of Becky's cookies and maybe they would just fudge the numbers a little. And then I get through about actual 10 miles and they say he went 110 miles. uh, but that wouldn't be right because God would know. Anyway, let's get to the prayer for this Friday, February 24th, 2023. Hussein, an Iranian Christian, was arrested by secret police. After 10 days awaiting interrogation, Hussein's thoughts were jumbled, but God's presence filled his solitary cell. This was the greatest experience of my life, with Jesus beside me, even telling me how to pray and what to say. Jesus said, "There is no need for you to say anything, because I'm going to tell you what to say. Why are you so afraid? Lord, thank you that you are with all of my imprisoned Christian family, as you were with Hussein. Encourage them with your presence, quell their fears, and soothe their hearts. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen." And what that makes you think about is Paul. Paul imprisoned when he wrote a lot of what is in the New Testament, inspired by God, writing God's word while not able to get out of, of a prison. It also makes me think about, it always takes me back to, of course, 2014, in which I was going through the divorce of a 25-year marriage and realizing that though it seemed as though it was the worst of times, it also became the best of times because it was through that pain, that anguish, the loss of something big that I found God. And God was there. And all the mistakes I made, it also takes you back to the prodigal son. All the mistakes I made, I wasn't the father I should have been. I wasn't the husband I should have been. But yet, God, He was there. He was there when I was laying there, not knowing where to turn, what direction I was going. He says, "I'm here to pick you up, to brush you off, and to put you back onto the path of your destiny. It's not going to look like you had planned, what you thought it was going to be. But if you trust in me, you will be exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do." And that is what part of this process is, this journey. I'm not perfect. I'm not a theologian. I don't, I'm not the one you turn to learn God's word. But what I do is I share my experiences, my testimony, my relationship. And God, He is there for me. He is there for you. We're not perfect. We're not perfect. Even after we come to faith, we're not perfect. But if our heart is for Him, He will continue to walk with us through these days until we reach eternity. Keep looking forward. Keep your eyes focused on the prize. And the prize don't rest here. It rests where we can't see. Our promise is in the things we can't see. The things we can see, all temporary. This is all temporary. No matter how good or bad your life is, this is all temporary. It's why we must keep our eyes focused on what we can't see, because one day what we can't see, we will see. And what we see, we will no longer see. Take care. God bless. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. And God willing, we'll be back with you come Monday morning. Until then.